So we watched some videos of interviews that maybe didn't go so well. So in the next few slides, I want to talk about some different scenarios that might come up when you're working with the media and how to kind of think about these different scenarios and prepare for them in advance before the actual interview happens in order to avoid a disastrous interview like one of the videos that you saw. So the first scenario to think about is that the individual who is interviewing you, they ask questions that stump you. They ask questions in which you just generally don't know the answer to. This usually catches people off guard and it can lead to, an uncomfortable silence as you kind of scramble through your thoughts and think about how to best answer the question. So some solutions that you would want to follow is, the first one, only tell the reporter what you know, not what you don't know. So you don't have to know the answer to everything. People don't expect you to know the answer to every single question, but, just tell the reporter what you know. You don't want to say what you don't know because it might make you look like someone who's not credible. Focus on the facts that you know and communicate those facts to the person who is interviewing you. If you're not the right person to answer a question, it's okay to say so. Maybe say there's another person that would be much better equipped to answer this question, and maybe you refer the person who's giving that interview, refer them over to that person. Offer to connect that reporter with someone who does know the answer. So you want to make sure if you get asked a question that you don't know the answer to, that stumps you, you still want to come off as being kind of a trusted source of information by communicating what you do know, and then focus on, connecting that person to the other person who might be the best person to answer those questions. The second scenario that you might run into is that a reporter or a journalist, they might ask you to speculate about something. So, among some of those tricky questions that reporters or journalists might ask, predicting the future is a popular one. And, you think about Dr. Fauci, he gets these kind of questions all the time about COVID-19, asking him, what's going to happen with COVID-19. So, in trying to answer, you might inadvertently escalate a situation unnecessarily, provide incorrect information, and you don't want to provide incorrect information by making speculations that could be proven wrong later on, or proven wrong during that interview that hurts your credibility. So when you're asked to speculate about something, predicting the future, there's a few things to keep in mind. During the interview prep, write out 2 or 3 key messages that you want the audience to walk away with. You should keep kind of, coming back to these key messages around whatever the topic is. When asked, this speculative question, have some sort of transitional or bridging statement prepared that will then lead the audience to your key message, right? Have some sort of transition where you get asked this tricky question, you just transition to whatever your key message is. So for example, on this slide here, the example says, quote, "That's a good question. I won't have a good answer to that until I receive further information." That's the bridge. But the most important thing is the public needs to remember right now is, and that's your key message, right? So you want to bridge away from whatever that speculative question is, and you want to make sure that you just go back to your key message and you're consistently communicating that key message to your audience. Another scenario might happen is that the person conducting the interview might ask you for your opinion. Now, conflicts between your own personal opinion and the agency or the organization in which you work for can occur, but you have to be really, really careful. Organizations have distanced themselves, sometimes with very severe consequences, from public figures and people who make statements that are counter to their values and their brand. So you have to remind yourself, who is asking the question, Are you a private citizen in that setting, or, are you a representative of your agency? So you want to be really careful about, voicing your own opinion, especially when that opinion could potentially conflict with your organization's standing and brand. So when you're asked for your opinion on a topic, especially on, a controversial topic, you want to address the request, create a bridge, as we talked about, and stay vigilant that you don't say anything that contradicts your organization's views. So you don't want to be in a situation where you communicate your opinion that is completely opposite to the stance that your organization has taken. You can use the same kind of strategy that we used in the last slide, so have some sort of bridge, and then go back to your main message. Remember, when you're working with the media, you've got your key messages. You want to go back to that main message using a bridge to do so, and focus on communicating that main message to your audience. And scenario 4, they ask questions out of left field. As I mentioned, it's best practice to ask for the questions in advance so you're able to prepare for answering those questions. But sometimes, a question that they ask, is kind of out of left field. And although it might be related to the topic at hand, it might be completely irrelevant to your final message that you hope to deliver. This is kind of the curveball of media interviews. So, in terms of a solution to dealing with this, you can try to anticipate these questions by putting yourself in the reporter's shoes beforehand and have an answer ready to a question that might come out of left field. And again, you can create a bridge and lead the audience to your 2 to 3 key messages that you have prepared. So again, having that bridge ready and coming back to those key messages is really going to be key to dealing with some of these different scenarios that you might face while working with the media.